Okay, so we've got this paper
Mhm.
from statistics to deep learning using large language models in psychiatric research.
Yep.
Quite a mouthful,
It is.
but sounds like it's going to be a pretty fascinating deep dive.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be a really interesting one. So paper is kind of a long didactic paper,
Yeah.
but it really lays out kind of like where the field is going in terms
Okay.
of like moving from traditional statistical analysis to deep learning.
Okay, so deep learning, I mean, I get that it's computers learning from data, but like
Yeah.
for researchers out there, like what does that actually mean? Like what's the difference?
So think about it like this.
Okay.
Before, we were really limited to analyzing structured data.
Mm-hmm.
So things like survey responses or medical records, things that fit neatly in rows and columns.
Right.
Deep learning throws that rule book out the window.
Okay.
So now we can actually feed the algorithms unstructured data,
Okay.
all the messy real-world stuff.
So like therapy transcripts,
Yeah.
social media posts,
That's right.
even voice recordings.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it opens up a
Completely
whole
is.
new world of data to analyze.
Unlocking insights from information that like we couldn't use before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the paper dives into some specific techniques that make this possible. Things like recurrent neural networks,
Yeah.
which are really good at analyzing sequences of data, like
Yes.
words in a sentence.
Right.
Or convolutional neural networks, which
Yeah.
are great at picking out patterns in images.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a
Cool.
whole range of tools now
Cool.
that researchers can use.
So let's talk about large language models or LLMs.
Yeah.
They seem to be kind of the rock stars of the AI world right now.
They are.
And the paper really highlights how they're a product of this deep learning revolution, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
LLMs are trained on massive
Yeah.
amounts of text data.
Trillions of words we're talking.
Trillions of words. And that scale allows them to do things that we never thought possible before.
Right.
Like really understanding the nuances of human language,
Right.
generating creative text formats.
Right.
Even translating languages with remarkable accuracy.
So it's almost like they've cracked the code of human communication.
In a way, they have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how does that translate into
Right.
benefits for psychiatric research?
Yeah. Imagine being able to instantly sift through mountains of research papers to identify the most relevant studies for your work.
Okay.
Or having an algorithm that can analyze patient interviews
Mm-hmm.
to detect subtle linguistic patterns that might indicate a certain condition.
So we're not just talking about faster analysis.
Yeah.
But actually like
Yeah.
discovering new insights that like humans might miss.
Precisely.
Wow.
LLMs can pick up on patterns and connections.
Yeah.
That would be nearly impossible for humans to detect,
Okay.
especially when dealing with massive data sets.
That's incredible.
It is.
But before we get too carried away with all the possibilities,
Yeah.
I have to ask about the potential downsides.
Right.
Like, are there any concerns there?
Of course. The
Yeah.
paper doesn't shy away from the challenges.
Okay.
One of the biggest ones is just the computational horsepower
Yeah.
needed to train and run these LLMs.
You need some serious computing power.
You do.
It's not as simple as like downloading an app
No,
and letting it loose on your data.
not quite.
Okay.
Although the paper does dive into some potential solutions,
Right.
like transfer learning,
Okay.
where you take an LLM that's already been trained on a massive data set
Right.
and you fine-tune it for a specific task.
So you don't have to start from scratch.
Exactly. So
Okay.
that can drastically reduce the computational resources needed.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Well, what about data privacy?
right.
We're dealing with incredibly sensitive information
That's right.
in mental health research.
Absolutely. And the paper emphasizes the need for robust anonymization techniques
Mm-hmm.
and strict adherence to data protection regulations like GDPR.
So researchers need to be extra careful about how they're handling this data,
They do.
especially when using third-party LLM services.
Yeah, the paper even suggests that in some cases it might be more secure to
Okay.
run LLMs locally
Okay.
within a controlled research environment
Right.
rather than relying on cloud-based services.
So it's like this balancing act.
It is.
We've got these really powerful LLMs,
Yeah,
but also all these ethical and practical considerations.
absolutely.
Sounds like a pretty complex landscape for researchers to navigate.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But the potential rewards are huge.
Okay.
So let's dive into some specific examples
Yeah, let's do it.
of how LLMs are already being used in psychiatric research.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start with something every researcher knows all too well.
Okay.
The dreaded literature review.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine trying to stay on top of a field where thousands of new papers are published every year.
It's like drinking from a fire hose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the paper highlights how LLMs can be used to summarize vast amounts of research,
Okay.
to pinpoint the most relevant studies, and even identify emerging trends that humans might miss.
So it's not just like keyword searches here.
No, no, no.
They can actually understand.
Exactly.
Right.
LLMs can understand the actual meaning and context of the text.
So it's like having a superpowered research assistant
That's a great analogy.
who can
Yeah.
actually read and synthesize all those papers for you.
Absolutely. And the paper cites some really compelling examples.
Okay.
One study used an LLM to analyze over 24,000 research abstracts,
Wow.
and it achieved an agreement with human reviewers of kappa equals 0.96.
That's incredibly accurate.
It's remarkably accurate.
Yeah. That could save researchers so much time.
Countless hours of tedious work.
Yeah.
So what about finding the right participants for a study?
Yeah, that could be a huge challenge,
It certainly is.
especially in mental health research.
But LLMs could help there too.
Okay.
Think about it. These models are trained on massive data sets of text and code,
Yeah.
which often include medical records, patient forums,
Right.
even social media posts.
Yeah.
That means they can learn to identify patterns that might indicate someone is experiencing certain symptoms
Okay.
or might be eligible for a particular study.
So instead of just relying on traditional
Yeah,
recruitment methods,
exactly.
you can kind of cast a wider net.
That's right.
Yeah.
And potentially reach individuals who might not otherwise participate.
That make research more accessible.
Yeah, and it's not just about identifying potential participants.
Okay.
LLMs can also help make research more accessible
Right.
by translating complex medical jargon into plain language.
Oh, that's huge.
This could be a game changer for engaging with diverse populations
Yeah.
and ensuring informed consent.
So it's like streamlining,
The
enhancing
pieces.
every stage
Yeah,
of the research process.
they do. And one area that's particularly exciting is the analysis of qualitative data.
Okay.
Think about all the rich information that's locked away in things like therapy transcripts, patient interviews,
Yeah.
open-ended survey responses.
It's a gold mine, but it's
It is.
traditionally so hard to analyze.
It's very time-consuming and labor-intensive to analyze,
Yeah.
but LLMs can help researchers extract themes, identify patterns, and even quantify the emotional tone of language.
Good.
This could lead to a much deeper understanding of patient experiences and the effectiveness of different treatments.
So we've talked about literature reviews, subject recruitment, qualitative data analysis.
Mhm.
What about the actual data analysis?
Right.
Can LLMs help with building statistical models?
They can, and in several ways.
Okay.
First, they can help researchers choose the most appropriate statistical model for their data.
So it's like having an expert
Mhm.
statistician on things.
Exactly. But LLMs can go even further. They can actually help researchers transform complex study designs into efficient code for data processing and analysis.
Wow. So even researchers who aren't
Exactly.
coding experts can benefit.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And once the data is analyzed,
Yeah.
LLMs can help researchers interpret the findings and communicate them effectively. The paper even highlights how LLMs can assist with writing research papers.
Hold on, writing the papers too.
Yeah.
What are we talking about robot scientists here?
Not quite robots, but the capabilities are pretty impressive.
Okay.
LLMs can help researchers structure their arguments, synthesize evidence, and even generate compelling visuals to illustrate their findings.
Wow.
This could be especially helpful for researchers who are not native English speakers or who struggle with academic writing.
So it's really like the whole
It really is.
gamut.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about all this amazing potential.
Right.
Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about potential challenges.
Yeah.
We've already touched on data privacy, computational resources.
Mm-hmm.
Are there other concerns researchers need to be aware of?
One issue that the paper highlights is the potential for what's called hallucination,
Okay.
where an LLM generates plausible sounding but completely incorrect information.
So they can make stuff up.
It is, and it underscores the need for researchers to carefully evaluate the outputs of LLMs,
Okay.
using their own expertise and critical thinking skills to determine what's accurate and what's not.
So you can't just blindly trust
Exactly.
its algorithm.
Researchers need to be actively involved in the process,
Right.
using their judgment to guide the analysis.
Okay, so it's like a collaboration
It is.
between the researcher and the...
Absolutely. LLMs are powerful tools, but they're not magic bullets.
Right.
They need to be used thoughtfully and carefully in conjunction with human expertise.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other potential pitfalls?
Well, another concern is the lack of transparency
Okay.
in some LLM
So
systems.
we don't really know how they're going.
Remember, these models are essentially black boxes.
Right.
We don't always know exactly how they arrive at their conclusions.
So that can make it hard to interpret the results.
Yeah, and this lack of transparency can also raise questions about reproducibility.
Right.
If we don't know exactly how an LLM arrived at its results, it can be difficult to replicate those results in another study.
Okay, so transparency, reproducibility, big concerns.
One more challenge is the potential for bias.
Okay.
Remember, these LLMs are trained on massive data sets of text and code,
Right.
which can reflect the biases of the people who created them.
Yeah.
If we're not careful, these biases can seep into the research process,
Okay.
leading to skewed results or unfair conclusions.
So how can researchers mitigate that risk?
The paper suggests several strategies.
Okay.
One is to carefully curate the training data,
Right.
ensuring that it represents a diverse range of perspectives and experiences.
Okay.
Another is to develop techniques for detecting and correcting bias in the outputs of LLMs.
So there's a lot of work to be done
There is.
to ensure that these are used responsibly.
Absolutely. But I'm also hearing a lot of excitement about the potential of these tools to transform mental health research.
Yeah.
Where do you see this field going in the next few years?
It feels like we're really on the cusp of.
I think we're just scratching the surface of what's possible.
Yeah.
As LLMs continue to evolve, they're going to become even more powerful and versatile.
Okay.
We're likely to see new applications emerge in areas like personalized medicine, early intervention, and even the development of new therapies.
That's incredible.
It is, but as you said earlier,
Yep.
it's crucial that we proceed with caution, ensuring that these powerful tools are used for good.
So it's really up to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The future of mental health research is incredibly promising.
Yeah.
But it's up to us to shape that future in a way that benefits everyone.
Yeah. It really feels like we're at this turning point
It does.
in mental health research.
Yeah.
But as with any powerful tool, we need to make sure that we're using it responsibly.
Yeah, one thing that really stood out to me in the paper was the emphasis on collaboration.
Oh.
It's going to take a team effort to really unlock the potential of LLMs in this field.
Makes sense.
We need AI experts, data scientists, clinicians, ethicists, all working together.
Yeah. It's not enough to just have
Right.
algorithms.
Exactly.
You need people who.
You need people who understand the complexities of mental health,
Right.
the ethical considerations and the practical challenges
Yeah, the real world.
of implementing these technologies in real-world settings.
And that collaboration needs to go beyond just researchers, right?
It does.
Yeah,
We need to be engaging with patients, policymakers, the public,
Yeah.
to ensure that these technologies are developed and used in a way that benefits everyone.
I really like that point about
Yeah.
bringing patients into the conversation,
It's crucial.
because ultimately they're the ones who are going to.
Absolutely. Their voices are crucial in shaping the ethical guidelines and regulatory frameworks that will govern the use of LLMs in mental health.
So it's not just about.
It's about the human values that we embed in that technology.
Right, it's about the values.
Exactly. And that's what makes this field so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's not just about code and algorithms. It's about human connection,
Yeah.
empathy, and the pursuit of a better understanding of the human mind.
Well, this paper has given us a lot to think about.
It has.
We took
Because
it.
we've covered the incredible potential of LLMs to
Right.
revolutionize psychiatric research, from automating literature reviews
Yeah.
to analyzing complex data
Yeah.
to even assisting with writing research papers.
And we've also talked about.
They've also explored the potential pitfalls, the computational challenges.
Right.
The data privacy concerns the risk of bias and the need for transparency and reproducibility.
It's a rapidly evolving field.
It is, with new discoveries and challenges emerging all the time.
For sure.
And that's why it's so important to stay informed and engaged.
Yeah.
This paper is just a starting point. There's a whole world of research articles and discussions out there
Right.
for anyone who wants to learn more.
So to our listeners, I encourage you to really dive in and explore this.
Absolutely.
Look into the specific LLMs we mentioned.
Yeah.
Read about the latest research findings.
Read some of those articles.
Yeah.
And most importantly, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Question the assumptions.
Challenge the limitations. And think critically about how these technologies can be used to create a more equitable and just world.
Well, this has been a really fascinating deep dive.
It has.
Thanks for
It's been my pleasure.
sharing your expertise and really helping us think beyond the hype
Yeah.
and consider like the real world implications of this.
To our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey.
Yeah.
Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep exploring the fascinating intersection of AI and mental health.